Most people think education ends the day we leave school, the day we graduate, or the moment we land a job. But the truth is, that's when education really begins, because the world is constantly changing. Technology evolves, industries shift, and opportunities appear and disappear faster than ever. The question is, are we evolving with it? See, the most successful people aren't the ones who had the highest grades or the fanciest degrees. They're the ones who never stopped being students. They read, they listen, they question, they observe. They don't see learning as an obligation. They see it as fuel for growth, for opportunity, and for possibility. If you want to lead, if you want to contribute, if you want to stay relevant, you can't just rely on what you already know, because what you know got you here. But it's what you continue to learn that will get you there. Education is not a stage of life. It is a way of life. So the challenge is simple. What will you learn today that makes you just a little better than you were yesterday? Education doesn't end with a degree. It begins the day you decide to keep learning. Somewhere along the way, we were taught that education is a destination, that the purpose of school is to pass exams, get grades, and finally walk across a stage in a cap and gown. We celebrate that moment as if learning is complete, as if knowledge is something we finish. But the truth is, education was never supposed to end with a certificate. It was supposed to awaken in us a hunger to keep going. Think about it. The most important things that shape our lives are rarely taught in classrooms. How to build meaningful relationships, how to deal with failure, how to adapt when the world changes around us. No professor hands you a textbook on resilience. No final exam asks you to prove your ability to keep moving forward after disappointment. That education, the real education, comes only when we take responsibility for learning every single day. Degrees are markers of what we once knew, but they cannot guarantee who we will become, because the world does not stop moving once we graduate. New technologies arrive, new industries are born, and old ways of doing things collapse. Entire professions disappear, while others that never existed before suddenly dominate. If our learning stopped the moment we left school, how can we expect to keep pace with a world that refuses to stand still? The people we admire most, the ones who inspire us, are not the ones who knew everything at the start. They are the ones who never stopped asking questions. They read beyond their comfort zones. They listen to voices different from their own. They challenge assumptions, including their own. They are students of life. They know that curiosity is not a phase of childhood, but a strategy for adulthood. Every day presents us with opportunities to learn. It could be from a book, a podcast, a conversation, a failure, or even a simple observation. The form doesn't matter, the commitment does, and that commitment doesn't need to be overwhelming. It's not about memorizing more facts or collecting more degrees. It's about being open. It's about asking, what did I learn today that I didn't know yesterday? It could be one sentence, one idea, one insight. Over time, those small lessons compound. They reshape the way we think, the way we work, the way we live. Education is not confined to the walls of an institution. It's in the way we choose to grow ourselves. It's in the way we decide to show up curious instead of certain. It's in the willingness to stay teachable, even when we have experience, even when others look to us as leaders. The moment we think we've learned enough, we start to decline. The moment we believe we already know, we shut the door to everything else that could make us better. Some people say, I don't have time to learn every day. But the truth is, we're always learning, whether we realize it or not. Every conversation, every mistake, every challenge is teaching us something. The difference lies in whether we notice it, reflect on it, and apply it. Education doesn't ask for more hours in your day. It asks for more awareness in your day. It asks you to see your life as a classroom and your experiences as lessons. When we treat education as a one-time achievement, we limit ourselves. But when we treat it as a lifelong practice, we give ourselves the ability to keep growing, to keep contributing, and to keep reinventing what is possible. The world changes daily. If you're not learning, you're falling behind. Every morning, the world wakes up different than the day before. New technologies are launched, new discoveries are made, industries adjust, and people find new ways to solve old problems. We might not notice these shifts immediately, but they are happening all around us, quietly shaping the opportunities and challenges we will face tomorrow. And the truth is, if we are not intentionally learning, we are unintentionally slipping backward. Think about the pace of change. Just a decade ago, many jobs we know today didn't even exist. Entire careers have emerged because of new technologies, while other professions that once seemed secure have disappeared almost overnight. Companies that were once untouchable have been replaced by startups built in garages. The speed at which the world is moving is not slowing down, it's accelerating. In this kind of world, what we knew yesterday is never enough for tomorrow. Learning is the only way to stay relevant. It's not about memorizing more facts or collecting more certifications. It's about adaptability. It's about equipping ourselves with the mindset and the tools to face what's next. Because the real danger is not that we don't know enough. It's that we stop learning and get stuck while the world keeps moving. That gap between where the world is and where we are widens every time we choose comfort over growth. And the truth is, most people aren't failing because they lack talent or potential. They're failing because they're relying on yesterday's knowledge to solve today's problems. They're using old maps to navigate new territory. Imagine trying to drive through a city using a decade-old map. The roads have changed, new routes exist, and old ones are closed. You would be lost. That's exactly what happens when we refuse to keep learning. But here's the opportunity. Every day is a chance to close the gap. Every day is an invitation to discover something new that helps us move forward. We don't need to master everything at once. We just need to take one step, to learn one new thing, to grow a little bit more than we did yesterday. That small, consistent practice of learning is what compounds over time into wisdom, into confidence, into adaptability. What's powerful is that learning doesn't have to be formal or complicated. It doesn't require a classroom or a teacher. The world is constantly teaching us, if only we are willing to pay attention. It could be a book that sparks a new perspective, a conversation with someone who challenges the way we think, a mistake that forces us to try again, this time more thoughtfully, or even observing how others succeed and asking, what can I take from that? The resources are everywhere, but the choice to learn is ours. When we choose not to learn, we don't just remain the same. We slowly fall behind. The people who thrive are not the ones who know it all. They're the ones who stay humble enough to keep learning, no matter how much they've achieved. They understand that education is not about a single moment in time, but about staying in motion, staying curious, and staying adaptable. Every day the world asks us a question. Will we grow with it, or will we be left behind? Growth isn't about what you know, but about your willingness to remain a student. Somewhere along the way, we confuse knowledge with growth. We think that once we've accumulated a certain amount of information, or once we've reached a position of expertise, we've arrived. But growth is not about arriving, it's about continuing. It's not about how much you already know. It's about whether you have the humility and curiosity to keep learning. The most dangerous mindset we can adopt is believing we've learned enough. the moment we start thinking, "I already know this," is the exact moment we stop growing. Knowledge, if it is not nurtured, becomes stale. Experience, if it is not paired with reflection and openness, can become arrogance. True growth is less about showing off what you know and more about staying open to what you don't know yet. Think about the greatest leaders, innovators, and thinkers in history. They were not great because they had all the answers. They were great because they never stopped asking questions. They approached the world with a student's mindset, curious, eager, willing to be challenged. They read widely, they listened deeply, they surrounded themselves with people who thought differently, and they never let their expertise blind them to new ideas. Remaining a student is a mindset, not a stage of life. When we were children, we were naturally curious. We asked endless questions, explored, experimented, and tried new things without fear. Somewhere in adulthood, many of us lose that curiosity. We begin to value being right more than learning. We protect our egos instead of expanding our minds. But growth only happens when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable again, to admit, "I don't know everything, but I'm willing to learn." There's a difference between knowing and growing. Knowing is static, it's information sitting still. Growing is dynamic. It's knowledge in motion, being challenged, being reshaped, being reapplied in new ways. Growth happens when we expose ourselves to perspectives that stretch us, to feedback that humbles us, to experiences that push us beyond our comfort zone. It's not about having the right answers, it's about developing the right questions. In a world that constantly changes, the most valuable skill we can cultivate is not mastery of a fixed set of facts, but the ability to keep learning, unlearning, and relearning. The willingness to remain a student means you're never stuck. It means that no matter how much the world shifts, you have the tools to adapt, to evolve, to reinvent yourself. That is real growth. Being a student doesn't make you less. It makes you more flexible, more aware, more prepared. It means you can draw lessons from failure instead of being crushed by it. It means you can engage with people different from you and actually learn from them instead of shutting them out. It means you can walk into every situation with the confidence that even if you don't have the answer yet, you have the ability to figure it out. The truth is, people respect those who keep learning. We might think that always having the answer earns trust, but in reality, it is our willingness to keep asking, to keep listening, and to keep growing that inspires others to do the same. Leaders who remain students don't just improve themselves. They create environments where everyone around them keeps learning too. The measure of growth is not how much you know today, but whether you are still willing to learn tomorrow. Every new idea you expose yourself to is fuel for future opportunities. Ideas are like seeds. On their own, they may seem small, insignificant, even useless at first. But when they are planted in the right conditions, they grow. They grow into new ways of thinking, new connections, and new possibilities. The more ideas you allow into your mind, the more fuel you have to shape the future you want. Most of us underestimate the power of exposure. We assume that if an idea doesn't immediately apply to our current life or career, it's irrelevant. But ideas don't always reveal their value right away. Sometimes they sit quietly in the back of our minds until the right moment arrives. And when it does, that idea becomes the key that unlocks an opportunity we never saw coming. Think about the most creative innovators in history. They weren't simply masters of one subject. They were curious about everything. They borrowed ideas from art, from science, from philosophy, from everyday life. They collected ideas the way others collect souvenirs. And later, when the time came, they connected those dots in ways no one else could. That ability to cross-pollinate ideas from different places is what fueled their breakthroughs. The truth is, ideas are everywhere. They live in books, in conversations, in failures, in stories, in the observations of daily life. Every time you encounter a new idea, you're adding another tool to your toolbox, another ingredient to your recipe, another spark to your fire. You might not use it today, you might not use it tomorrow, but when the moment comes, that idea becomes fuel. It becomes the difference between being stuck and moving forward, between missing an opportunity and seizing it. The danger comes when we close ourselves off, when we decide we've seen enough, heard enough, learned enough. A closed mind collects no new fuel, and without fuel, there can be no growth, no momentum, no future. We end up running on empty, relying on the same old ideas over and over again until they no longer work. What's powerful is that we don't have to chase life, changing ideas every day. Even the smallest spark matters. A single sentence in a book can shift your perspective. A brief conversation can inspire a new approach. A simple mistake can reveal a better way forward. Each new idea adds to the energy you carry with you. Over time, that energy compounds. The more you collect, the more options you have when opportunities present themselves. It's also important to remember that ideas don't exist in isolation. One idea leads to another, which leads to another, creating a chain reaction. The more you expose yourself to, the more connections your brain makes. Suddenly, what seemed impossible becomes possible, not because you had all the answers, but because you had enough ideas to piece together a solution. Leaders, entrepreneurs, artists, and innovators all share one common habit. They are voracious learners. They expose themselves to as many ideas as possible, knowing that most won't pay off immediately. But they trust that the more fuel they collect, the more likely they are to be ready when the right opportunity appears. They understand that ideas are not wasted. They are stored, waiting to ignite when needed most. Every idea you encounter expands your horizon. It stretches what you believe is possible. It gives you a wider lens through which to see the world. And the more ideas you carry with you, the more prepared you are to step into opportunities that others will miss simply because they didn't have the fuel to recognize them. Lifelong learners stay relevant, adaptable, and valuable. In every era, relevance has been the difference between those who thrive and those who fade away. The world doesn't stand still. Mark, its evolve, technology advances, expectations shift, and cultures change. If we remain the same while everything else moves forward, we lose our place in the story. But when we choose to keep learning, we choose to keep moving with the world instead of being left behind. Relevance is not about knowing everything. It's about knowing enough to adapt. It's about having the humility to admit that yesterday's knowledge may no longer apply to today's challenges. The skills that once made us successful might not carry us into the future. The rules that once governed our industries may no longer exist. Those who stop learning assume that what worked yesterday will work tomorrow. Those who keep learning recognize that what worked yesterday was only preparation for something new. Adaptability is the natural result of lifelong learning. When you make learning a habit, change doesn't intimidate you. It energizes you. You're not paralyzed when the unexpected happens because you've trained yourself to embrace the unknown. You don't cling to the comfort of the past because you've built the confidence to explore the possibilities of the future. Learning gives you the ability to bend without breaking, to shift without losing yourself, to grow without fear. Value in the modern world comes from our ability to contribute in ways that matter, and contribution requires learning. If you are not learning, you're not increasing your value to the people around you. The people who are sought after, respected, and remembered are those who continuously invest in themselves so they can invest more in others. They don't just rely on what they already know. They push themselves to know more so they can give more. Consider the people you admire most in your life or in your work. Chances are they are people who never stopped being students. They read, they listen, they observe, and they grow. And because of that, they stay relevant in conversations that matter, adaptable in times of change, and valuable to the people they serve. Their influence comes not from perfection, but from progress. They are valuable because they keep moving forward, even when others stop. The danger of refusing to learn is invisibility. When we stop learning, we slowly fade into the background. Our ideas become outdated, our methods become ineffective, and our voice loses its weight. But lifelong learners remain visible because they evolve with the times. They become the people others look to for guidance, not because they have all the answers, but because they are always in the process of finding new ones. Lifelong learning doesn't have to be overwhelming. It doesn't mean you need to pursue endless degrees or formal qualifications. It means being curious. It means paying attention. It means taking something from every book, every conversation, every mistake, and every experience. It means asking, "What can this teach me?" instead of assuming, "I already know." That simple shift keeps you relevant, adaptable, and valuable in ways that degrees and titles never could. Relevance fades when knowledge stops growing. Adaptability disappears when curiosity dies. Value diminishes when we stop contributing new energy to ourselves and to others. But as long as we choose to keep learning, we choose to stay in motion. We choose to stay engaged. We choose to remain an active part of the story the world is writing. What you continue to learn determines where you'll go next. The past may explain how you arrived here, but it cannot predict your future. What shapes your future is the knowledge, the skills, and the insights you choose to gain from this moment forward. Learning is not just about staying informed, it's about creating possibilities. Every time you learn something new, you unlock a door that was previously invisible. The more you learn, the more doors appear. Too often, people believe their path is fixed. They assume their career, their relationships, and their opportunities are limited to the choices they've already made. But in reality, the future is always being rewritten by the things we choose to learn today. If you stop learning, your path narrows. If you keep learning, your path expands. Every book you read, every skill you practice, every perspective you explore becomes a stepping stone to places you could not have imagined before. Think about it. The most successful people rarely had a straight line to their achievements. They didn't predict every step in advance. Instead, they stayed open. They learned constantly. They allowed new knowledge to guide them into unexpected opportunities. Their willingness to keep learning was what created the next chapter of their story. Without that, they would have stayed stuck in the chapters they had already written. What you know today is only enough for today. Tomorrow will ask something different of you. Tomorrow will demand new skills, new ideas, new ways of thinking. If you keep learning, you'll have the tools to respond. If you don't, you'll find yourself unprepared, trying to fight tomorrow's battles with yesterday's weapons. The difference between those who advance and those who fall behind is not intelligence, it's commitment to learning. Every time you choose to learn, you're investing in your future self. You're shaping the person you will become, the opportunities you will be ready for, and the challenges you will be able to overcome. It's not just about professional growth, it's about personal growth. Learning how to communicate better changes the way you build relationships. Learning how to manage your emotions changes the way you respond under pressure. Learning how to adapt to new environments changes the way you experience change. What you continue to learn doesn't just change what you can do, it changes who you are becoming. The danger lies in believing that the future will be kind to those who stay the same. It won't. The future rewards those who prepare for it, and preparation is learning. Every day you choose not to learn, you're choosing to limit your options. Every day you choose to learn, you're expanding your options. One choice narrows your life, the other expands it. This is why learning must be intentional. It's not enough to let life teach you passively. You have to actively seek it out, ask questions, explore new fields. Push yourself beyond what feels comfortable, stay curious. Curiosity is the fuel that turns information into transformation. When you cultivate the discipline of learning daily, you're not just preparing for the next step. You're building a future with limitless steps. Your next breakthrough, your next opportunity, your next success, it will not come from what you already know. It will come from what you choose to learn next.